So, Cyclone Ditwah. It's been on everyone's radar for the past few days, causing a whole lot of concern, right? But the story, it's taken a really unexpected turn. In this breakdown, we're going to get into exactly what's happening right now, look at the pretty dramatic impact it's already had, and figure out what's coming next.
All right, let's just cut right to the chase. The one question on everybody's mind. After all that buildup, all the warnings, has Cyclone Ditwah actually weakened? This is the absolute key to the whole story, so let's dig in. And the answer? A big, resounding yes. The system has lost a ton of its strength. It's not even technically a cyclone anymore. It's been downgraded to what we call a deep depression, which is, a much, much less intense storm system. And it's just kind of sitting off the coast right now. So that's great news, obviously, but let's get into the details of what that really means for us on the ground. Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we've got to pinpoint its exact location and see how much punch it still has left. Let's take a look at the latest snapshot. All right, so here's the lowdown as of this morning. You can see it's hanging out south of Cuddalore, about 145 kilometers from Pondicherry. But, and this is the part that tells the real story, look at that wind speed. It's down to about 25 knots. Now, even if some official classifications are a little slow to catch up, a wind speed like that is crystal clear proof that we're dealing with a deep depression now, not a full-blown cyclone. So how in the world does a powerful cyclone just lose its steam so fast? To figure that out, we need to retrace the pretty wild journey it's been on for the last few days. So, check out this timeline. This thing didn't start off weak. Nope. It began as a simple circulation, but then it just blew up, intensifying into a really powerful cyclone. It smashed across Sri Lanka, caused some major damage there, and then pushed into Tamilnadu's delta region, just dumping torrential rain. And then, poof, it seemed to lose its punch right off the coast. The big question is, what happened? So what was the secret ingredient that just took all the power out of this storm? Well, it turns out the answer is this really fascinating weather phenomenon that basically acted like a protective shield for parts of the coast. It's a thing called vertical wind shear. I know, it sounds super technical, but the concept is actually pretty simple. Just imagine a giant wall of dry air getting sucked right into the storm. This dry air, it's like an intruder. It gets in there, breaks up the cyclone's whole structure from the inside, and basically starves it of the moisture it needs to build those huge, powerful rain clouds. And this quote from the analysis, man, it just sums it up perfectly. The entire system is trapped in that dry air. You could literally see it in the satellite images. This huge mass of dry air just wrapped itself around the cyclone, especially on the northern side, and it just choked off the moisture supply that would have otherwise hammered places like Chennai. The best way to see the real-world effect of this wind shear is to just look at the raw rainfall numbers. When you compare the data, it tells a story of two completely different storms hitting two very different regions. I mean, just look at these numbers. These are from the areas that got hit by the storm before it weakened. Venkadu got slammed with a massive 220 millimeters of rain. Look at the others, so many places with well over 130 millimeters. This was the cyclone in its full, terrifying power. And now for the contrast. It is just wow. While the Delta region was getting absolutely hammered with up to 220 millimeters, cities like Chennai got, 30 to 40? This slide right here is the perfect visual proof of that wind shear in action. It was like a protective barrier that literally stopped the storm's northern half from ever really forming. Okay, so that's the why behind what happened. But now for the really important part. What does all this mean for the weather where you are over the next 24 hours? Let's break it down. First up, let's look at Tamilnadu and Pondicherry, since they're still feeling the effects. So you can see heavy rain is still on the cards for the Delta districts, places like Mayiladuthurai and Nagapattinam. But as you move further north, up toward Chennai, the forecast shifts to more moderate rain. The key takeaway here is pretty simple. The worst is definitely over, but we're not totally out of the woods yet. The rain is going to keep coming, but the good news is it should start to ease up from this evening on. Okay, now as this system keeps drifting, the rain is shifting with it. And because the storm's clouds are now all bunched up on its northwestern side, it's actually Andhra Pradesh that's going to see the most significant rainfall from this point forward. Yeah, the coastal districts of Andhra Pradesh really need to be ready for some heavy, maybe even very heavy rain. And even the interior areas are going to get a good soaking. The system's reach is pretty long, too.
It even extends into parts of Telangana, so cities like Hyderabad can expect some moderate to heavy spells.
And just to complete the picture for the rest of southern India, let's take a quick look at Karnataka and Kerala. So in Karnataka, you can see major cities like Bengaluru and Mysuru are looking at some moderate to heavy spells. And then over in Kerala, the forecast is for more widespread, but generally lighter rain as the system's outer bands just kind of brush past. All right, so what's the final chapter for this storm? Where is it headed, and how does this whole story end? Let's trace its final path.
And here it is, maybe the most important takeaway for everyone on the coast. The system is not going to make another landfall. I'll say that again, no landfall. Instead, it's just going to drift north parallel to the coast for the next couple of days. And as it travels, it's just going to keep swallowing that dry air we talked about, and it'll basically run out of fuel and just fizzle out over the ocean.
But listen, just because Ditwah is on its way out, that doesn't mean the rain is just going to switch off. Thanks to the easterly winds that are still blowing, we can expect wet weather to stick around across Tamilnadu for several more days, probably until about December 5th or 6th. Now, it's not going to be cyclone-level rain, but definitely don't put those umbrellas away just yet.
And all of this brings us to the final, bigger question. With the cyclone now in the rearview mirror, what does the rest of the monsoon season have in store for us in the super important month of December? Well, that is the next big story we'll be keeping a very close eye on. Thanks for joining me for this breakdown.